Welcome everyone, I'm Matty the Hero, and today we're gonna talk about the latest installment in the fighting game series that de facto started it all, Street Fighter 6. The game was developed and published by Capcom for PS4, Xbox One, PS5, Xbox X, and PC, and the roster is comprised of old friends and new friends, and is Zangief a bear? Breaking the last 10 years trend, Street Fighter 6 put some effort into single player content instead of just online, a feat by and large reserved for Netherlands games in times past. But what does it do exactly? Well, aside from acknowledging arcade mode for what it is, it also introduced World Tour, or what would happen if you tried to modernize Conquest mode or The Devil Within. World Tour is a 3D adventure game mode where you create your own character, and as long as someone's over the age of 12 and breathing, you can punch them. World Tour also has a storyline where your own personal freak sets off to aid a friend in need, which takes them across the globe. It also features minigames that teach various life skills, such as how to do motion inputs, how to do charge inputs, how to parry, and how to use the New York public transit system. But speaking of, moving on to the gameplay changes, Street Fighter 6 takes great inspiration from games past, but most notably Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, in many facets. One of these additions inspired by Third Strike is the parry system, which has been tweaked for modern sensibilities. Instead of parries being instant and being performed by pressing forward at an opportune time, they are done by pressing the medium punch and kick buttons at the same time, and are more akin to a stance wherein you shan't take damage less for throws. But that is just regular parries. For just like Third Strike had red parries with better frame data, so does 6 have perfect parries that give way to nearly any punish of your choice, assuming you can input it in time. But the retrofitted mechanics don't add that just parries or just Third Strike. Alpha counters from the Zero series return as drive reversals, a veritable get off me button everyone forgets exists. And so does focus attack dash cancelling from 4, albeit cut in half to make them more versatile. You still have focus attacks on heavy punch and heavy kick, but now they're called drive impacts, have a set length instead of having to charge them and only crumble the opponent on counter hit as well as being blockable, instead of either being worthless when done without charge or crumbling and being unblockable with charge. DIs are also better than FAs in that when blocked they deal knockback, which can knock people against the wall when applicable. Meanwhile, the dash cancelling part of FADCs has been divorced from focus attacks entirely. Instead, you can trigger a drive rush either from neutral out of parry or by previously inputting dash, now middle punch and middle kick simultaneously, during a special cancelable move. But you might have noticed a naming convention going on here, and what's up with that? Well, the guard meter from Alpha is also back, only this time it does it more than whether or not you can block. It is now the drive gauge, and it decreases when you block still, but it is also the resource you spend when you do EX moves or utilize any of the previously mentioned drive mechanics. It is also tied to the stun mechanic now, as if you deplete the gauge completely, you enter a state called burnout, where you move slower and can't access the mechanics tied to the drive gauge until it completely fills up once more. In this state, if you block a DI against the wall, you will not just get the usual wall splat, but also enter stun with all the misfortune that brings. Keeping your gauge in a usable state is, however, quite simple. Every landed hit or parried move tops up your gauge. Really, it's all down to not going ham on the EX moves and drive installs or rushes, and you should be fine. Taking a step back to Street Fighter 6's inspirations though, as I've said previously, parries are not the only thing it took from Third Strike. There's also the game's aesthetic, going in the same street direction with the graffiti stylings of logos and such, as well as the music of the game being hip-hop, albeit modernized as you'd imagine. Now, to take note of the music though, it has proved a somewhat divisive topic, as some enjoy the soundtrack's uniformity in providing non-intrusive background music, while others find it wanting, deeming it overall samey and forgettable. I personally fall into the latter group, as I tend to be of the opinion that character themes should in some manner inform of and mirror the character they are supposed to represent. Similarly with stage themes and the place they're supposed to represent, as well as those exclusive to the story and their narrative movements when applicable. Although this isn't to say that there's no place for what is explicitly background music to me. In fact, I'd argue that Street Fighter 6's soundtrack overall works given the right context, such as the Metro City stage working but only if you're in World Tour, as it befits a confused jobber darting across the streets a lot better than any fight the game provides. As for the graphics, some say it's too realistic, others that it's too stylized to the point it clashes with the textures, which are kinda two ways to get to the same destination now that I think about it, but I think it's fine. I certainly like this art style better than the last two 3D games, albeit that's not to say it is without faults, but then what is? What's really got me impressed though, is how much of the PS4 version is up to par with its counterparts on more advanced hardware. The major difference that I notice is smoother motion on PC, but that's a given when PC users can choose to run at 120 or more frames as applicable. Whilst console games target 60 at best, but it also needs to be said that fighting games specifically always target 60 at least to run decently. Moving back to the gameplay, just a stint, Street Fighter 6 features 3 menus to control. You have Classic for the 6-button layout Street Fighter has always been. You have Modern, which mimics the control scheme of platform fighters, most notable of these being Super Smash Bros., and also Dynamic, wherein you gain full assistance of the AI in accomplishing moves. Important to note here is that while Classic and Modern controls can both be used online, Dynamic cannot. But now that all of that has been discussed, well, what do I think of the game? I think it's a step in the right direction for the genre at large, especially considering how not only does Street Fighter set the pace when they succeed, but even without doing so, NetherRealm has already proved that they were thinking about going in a similar direction with 10K12, leaving the proverbial ball in, well, everyone else's courtyard. Street Fighter 6 isn't a perfect game by any means, but it is by and far a great leap forward compared to 5 within the same window. Mayhaps the current state of the game is leaving me feeling like this, but what is there already is a great base to be built upon in the coming years, and well worth its salt. Now where's my Star Gladiator 3, Capcom?